you're a thick woman. Only in the winter. You keep them warm all winter, and then as soon as June comes, start making excuses why they don't want to see you anymore. I can't stand it, you know. You call up a guy once, and it's raining and freezing cold, but it was in June. He said, hey, how you doing? Hi, it's me, Nikki. I haven't seen you in a while. I would really love to see you. It's raining and it's cold. He goes, well, I want to see you too. But, gas is just so high this week. Come on, you know I drive an 8-cylinder. I know, right? My feelings were hurt. I'm like, man, come on, you live upstairs. You can't come down. People put so much emphasis on certain things. You know, it's just crazy. Even when I was on the TV show, they tried to put me on a diet. Really? I said, man, I don't even eat a lot. You know, I just don't have a metabolism. That's it. Everything I eat, I gain weight. Gum, ice, it doesn't matter.
Hello?
So they advised me to change the things that I eat, like pork anymore. I was like, what? No pork? Pork is delicious! You know, I can't cold turkey pork. Maybe you can find me some sort of support group or something, you know. Wean me off slowly. Let me walk around for a couple of months and wear a pork patch. I don't know. And I really only just love bacon. Can I just keep eating bacon? And they go, yeah, bacon is fine, but why won't you try turkey bacon? You know, I'm not as dumb as I look. I know you cannot make a turkey and a pig. I know this. How did you get that meat, please? I don't even care how you got it. Can we suffice it to say I don't like interracial breakfast meat? Give me the turkey or give me the pork. Don't give me both together. I'd rather eat Kevin bacon. Thank you. My father was a good-looking guy. That's the handsome part of me. But he was a good-looking guy, and he's a jazz drummer. His name is Bruno Carr, and everybody assumed that because of that I was going to be a singer. But as I grew up, I did love music, like, more than everybody. I have a heightened love of music. But I also watched how they do R&B artists, especially females. Like, you have to be sort of sexy to be a singer. Like, you can be fat when you first come out. But if you want to be a big star, the record companies make you do everything to hurry up and lose weight. My favorite story is about a woman named Kelly Price. Kelly was a big woman. I'd never heard of her before, but I knew she was a big girl because she said it in the song. She did. She said, see, I put my trust in him. I can't believe he slept with her behind my back. I said, wow, that is a big back. Imagine that, if she's on your right there. But it's true. Okay, so here's another example.
fact that there's a rise of flat earthers, there's evidence of two things. We live in a country that protects free speech. We live in a country with a failed educational system. That would hurt. What's odd is there are people who think Earth is flat,
right,
but recognize that the moon is round, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and the sun are all spheres, but Earth is flat. In Columbus's day, there was surely a flat Earth contingent.
Yes.
Columbus predates the era of experimental checking of any idea you might have. So if you want to say Earth is flat, lunar eclipses. What's a lunar eclipse? If your faces the brilliant sun and this is Earth and the moon is over here, the sun is always casting Earth's shadow into space. It's always there no matter what. So the moon occasionally passes through that shadow. And if you see the shape of Earth's shadow on the moon, it is always round. Always round. If Earth was flat, sometimes you get like a flat shadow.
Right.
Nobody's ever seen a flat shadow.
Right.
And the only thing that makes a perfectly circular shadow
would be something that's perfectly circular.
Perfectly spherical.
Spherical.
Yes. So the only thing that makes a perfect circle shadow every single time is a perfect sphere.
Right.
Okay? No matter what angle
No matter
you
what
shine. Whereas a disc, it would only make a perfect circle if you lined it that way.
Right.
And then
You have to look at the face of the disc in order to get the circle.
The circle.
If
Any
you-
other
any
angle,
other angle,
you get
something of another shape.
Greeks knew this.
Right.
All the lunar eclipses they said, oh my gosh, we must be in a round Earth. This is thousands of years
Before Columbus.
before Columbus. Exactly. So now if the Earth is round, how big is Earth? You might want to check for that. There's a famous experiment conducted by Eratosthenes. Eratosthenes. And in two cities in the old world, and one of them, they knew that at 12 noon on a particular day of the year, that the sun was directly overhead and you could see the bottom of a well.
Oh, okay.
You don't run around looking at the bottoms of wells.
No.
Because the light doesn't take, it's just, no.
Doesn't get down there.
It doesn't get down there. How can we use this observation to see if Earth's surface is curved? We need another well. Turns out we can't see the bottom of both wells at the same time. What might explain this? There are two possible explanations. First, we could have a flat Earth with a sun that's small and close by, so that the light hits the second well at an angle. Or second, we could have a curved Earth with a sun that's big and far away, so that all the light comes in parallel, but only one well at a time is lit all the way to the bottom. Turns out with just two wells, there's enough room for both explanations to fit our observations. Eratosthenes only had two wells, but what if he added a third? With a third well, it doesn't matter where the sun is. No flat Earth model can explain the angles of all three shadows, but the spherical model explains it all. All three angles. These Greeks had the angles.
Yeah.
Okay, in fact, geometry translates to Earth measurement. If you send a ship straight to the horizon,
Right.
eventually it begins to disappear until it's no longer visible beyond your horizon.
Right.
And you should ask yourself, what kind of surface would produce that result?
The ocean.
If it's
The ocean has a ramp. Like a parking lot. The ocean has a ramp.
It's an elevator.
It's an elevator. And get to a certain point, they're just like going down.
Seafarers knew this.
Right.
And so, however flat they would have imagined the Earth to be, they couldn't have accepted it to be completely flat, because otherwise you would never not see the shape. Okay. For me, the fact that there's a rise of flat earthers, there's evidence of two things.
Okay.
One, we live in a country that protects free speech.
That's actually kind of awesome.
And two, we live in a country with a failed educational system.
That would hurt.
Our system needs to train you not only what to know, but how to think about information, knowledge, and evidence. If you don't have that kind of training, you'd run around and believe anything.
Anything.
Anything. philosopher at the University of Oxford.
Okay.
Here's the argument. Ready?
Go ahead.
Our computing power is growing rapidly.
Right.
We create simulations of worlds. We have video games with characters that are inside the video game.
Right.
Imagine a day where you can simulate a world so perfectly with life forms, humans, so well that you can recreate every single neurosynaptic thought you could have, but now you're in a simulation on the computer,
So,
including the perception of free will.
well, there you have it. Because then, so now you would have enough computing power to imbue the Sims inside of the program with all of the human traits that we possess now.
Correct. Not only our human trait,
Not
but
only-
the world.
but the world.
The world itself.
Right.
And you don't have to have all the world existing there at all times.
Right.
That might be an unrealistic amount of computing power.
Right.
You just need
Enough of the world that they see around.
nothing that they see around.
Right.
So you want to start digging, and
Oh, that's so fun.
and having put the Earth there. There's a flag that goes up in the programmer, and they say, "Oh, need more Earth." And so
Right.
put Earth beneath you while you keep digging.
It's like the Truman Show.
Yeah, well, for example.
Right.
Okay.
Cool.
Or does Minecraft, you can build
Or
stuff.
Minecraft.
Right.
Oh, that is Minecraft.
Right. Okay.
God, that guy's a brilliant genius.
So we went to the moon. It's okay. Let's make sure the moon is there.
Right.
Okay.
Maybe that's why we can't travel faster than the speed of light. Because if we could, we'd be able to get to another galaxy
Before they can
program that galaxy.
Oh!
So much fun.
So the programmer put in that limit.
Put in the limit.
Because that's the fastest they can get.
We can't program fast enough. So we put in a limiter. The speed of light is a limiter so that you can't get to the next thing before we build it.
All right, so let me finish. That's good.
Go
That's
ahead.
good, Chuck.
All right.
So let me finish this. So now that world evolves, and they develop computing power.
Right.
And they say, we want to play video games.
So now we're going to make a world.
So then they make a world, and they have sufficient computing power that they invent
Right.
to create a whole universe within their computers.
Okay.
And then
They make a world.
and then they make a world all the way on down.
Right.
It could be hundreds of thousands, billions, infinite.
All right. So far, this sounds like it still works.
That's right. So now, close your eyes, throw a dart. Which of these universes are you going to land in? The first one that's real, or the gazillion that are not?
Well, yeah.
Just statistically. Okay.
Am I drinking when we're playing this darts game?
Because then you missed the
That's
entire
everything.
So
yeah,
there's
no,
something called Bayesian statistics, where you're allowed to introduce information that you already have available to you, even if you didn't measure it to be true. So we are establish the likelihood that one day we'll have the power to do this.
Right.
And then that factors into these statistics.
Okay.
So there's 1 in a zillion, you're the real universe, and 999 zillion to 1
That's your simulation.
That convinced me. And I don't want to be convinced. I didn't like it, and I was just begging for somebody to give me an argument that was cogent enough to undermine that entire reasoning, and I just came across it.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Okay? It's a good friend of mine, Rich Gott.
All right.
He was a colleague of mine back when I was at Princeton.
All right.
Deep thinker, likes calculating the ends of things.
Nice.
Bayesian statistics. He's heavily quoted in this book, The Doomsday Calculation, and William Palzo is a smart guy unto himself, and I am now convinced.
Now you're convinced.
Are you ready?
Okay, go ahead.
What do all these... So here is what convinced me we're not in a simulation.
Okay.
Are you seated?
All right. I'm seated.
Hold on.
I'm going to hold.
Okay. All right. What do all those simulated universes have in common?
They're simulations.
They have the power to simulate
That's what I'm
themselves.
saying. They're simulations.
They have the power to simulate themselves.
Yes.
That's what they all have in common.
make a simulation.
They have that power.
Exactly.
To simulate themselves exactly. Do we have that power now?
No, we don't.
No, we don't.
Which means that we can't send it. We can't send ourselves into the future as a simulation. So
we don't have the power yet.
So we can't continue the chain.
So either we are the real one,
Right.
or we're the one in the chain that's still evolving to try to then make a simulation within their own world.
Right.
So the odds of us being a simulation goes from a gazillion to 1. I mean, to the likelihood of
The likelihood, right.
Gazillion, right?
It flips.
It flips. 50-50. And I'm good with that. That changes my life completely.
Yeah.
Okay? And no longer are your kids going to say, Dad, it doesn't matter, we're in a simulation anyway. No, you've got an argument. You got a rebuttal.
Exactly.
A quick one. Let's do my homework. I go, ready?
Good.
Maybe these simulators before you can simulate. That would be us.
So now we're Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong. All right.
Classic. Classic gameplay.
So maybe we're just entertainment, like a historical exercise.
Right.
That's possible in principle. However, let's look at our own conduct with that regard.
Okay.
I think of a movie as a simulation, just for the sake of which it kind of is. Ask yourself, how many movies have been made in a time before we ever knew how to make movies? Relative to movies made in the era where we know how to make movies. You can do the numbers, it's small. Yes, the Spartacus, the OK Corral,
Three Musketeers.
Yeah, those exist.
That type of stuff.
Okay?
Okay.
If we are any measure of the incentives of creating simulations, which all we can do with movies at this point, then they might have some historical, but there's way more interesting things and stories to tell in the era of simulations that exist post-simulation.
Right. And then, yeah.
So even if there are some period pieces that we might be, still most of these would be universes made after they could simulate themselves. Right. If our movie-making habits are any indication of anything.
So the chances are we're not a little offshoot, like a little side project.
We could be, just statistically, it's
Probably
unlikely.
not. Right.
Because we're throwing darts.
Right.
And most of the stories they're going to simulate are going to be the ones that that are in the era of the time they can simulate themselves.
So that still brings us back to we're probably either the first or we're on our way to being the next.
On our way to being the next. That's
Right.
correct.
One or the other.
That's more likely than any other possibility here.
Wow.
And so I can now rest well.
So no simulation.
Yeah, I'm good. I think I'm real. I think you're real. I think we're good.
Well, real recognize real. So yes.
You'll recognize real.
Real recognize real.
You got
There
it.
you go.
Chuck, just
Yeah.
love on that.
Boom.
Star Talk.
Yeah.
Signing out. But if I as a man take those hormones, will I start having those same effects, or will it be fighting my testosterone and it'll have the whole other effect?
Yeah, because you have, and women have to. Testosterone too, right? And there's all these differences, right? But testosterone tends to lead to more like aggressive behavior. But if we were to give you some progesterone or estrogen, it might just help like modulate the effects that the serotonin is having and just kind of make you less aggressive, but not necessarily make you feel depressed.
Instead of saying take a chill pill, we should be saying take some estrogen, man.
So what you really need is
We should be saying take some estrogen, man.
So what you really need is oxytocin. So oxytocin, hugging can release it, but it's released during breastfeeding, during these times when you're really like bonding.
Is postnatal the same as postpartum depression? Is that the same thing?
Postpartum depression, yes, yeah. Postpartum depression, there's menopause when there's lots of hormonal changes, and there's something called PMDD, which is, I think, premenstrual disorder, I believe, where you get severe changes in mood, around your time of month when there's these hormonal changes, but it's so severe that you actually need medication for it, and people take SSRIs to treat this PMDD. And so when, if somebody says I have a kidney stone or a kidney infection, whatever, like that's okay, but not to say my brain is out of balance. Somehow that doesn't seem real to people, and that always really bothers
Can
me.
you think of any evolutionary value for postpartum depression?
Children.
It's like, what have I wrought?
Exactly. It's just like that is your body and the universe saying, don't do this again. Don't do this again.
Let you go this one time.
Hey, look, okay? Everybody gets one. Now after that.
So there's a book, it's called good reasons for bad feelings by an evolutionary psychologist named Randy Nesse. And it really goes through, it goes through all the different evolutionary reasons about why we have these emotions. But one theory about depression is that it actually helps elicit help when you need it. So all the outward signs of depression, like, you know, you're huddled up in a ball, you can't get out of bed, you're crying, whatever, that actually will elicit help in your community. So people will come to you, you know, oh, hey, let me help you take care of, like, your child. You're not in a good way, right? And so that might have been one adaptive reason, evolutionary reason for depression. But not everybody shows those outward signs, like Chuck was saying. I mean, there's this great commercial. I can't believe that they have these commercials on television, by the way, for, you know, psychiatric treatment, because then you have patients coming to you like, oh, I saw this commercial, can I take this? But there's this one great commercial where they have these people holding up these happy masks, you know, and they're walking around with like a happy face on, and then
the fake.
Yeah, and then like really they're underneath. And I find that actually comedians, all the comedians I've met, and I've met quite a few, they all have come to me and have some level of like depression or anxiety. They're all in therapy.
They're all in therapy, and they all have the happy mask.
Right, and it's like this really, they're like, well, I never feel as good as I do when I'm on stage and when I'm making people laugh, and then it's almost like therapeutic in a way. So I think that I don't know if there's been studies done, but again, anecdotally, there's a higher prevalence of like depression and anxiety in comedians. You get away
with of one here, and it's
right. This is exactly evidence right here. That's a new egg.
This is our experiment.
Yeah,
right.
So, doctor, go back to the woman who's crunched up in a ball and in suffering severely, and an elder woman comes along and says, it's okay, I'll take care of the child for you right now. That's fine if you live in a small tribe, a small village, and everybody. Does this work in the 21st century when everyone is disconnected and there's concrete walls between everybody?
That's a really great question. So one of the concepts in evolutionary psychology is that all of these feelings evolved for a specific reason, but then they're butting up against modern society where it no longer is useful, right? So let's say it makes sense for us to be afraid of heights so you don't fall off a cliff, right? And there's experiments where there are these babies, and it's this cliff experiment where it's like there's actually a clear plexiglass, but it looks as if there's a big drop, and the mom's on the other side of it, and just going, come here, and the baby will just like be frozen, like it won't crawl across this clear plexiglass because it's
a tough experiment.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It's like, yeah.
Do I have to be the one to say that? I'm sorry.
I can't believe my mother's trying to kill me. I can't believe my mother is trying to kill me.
And there are these videos, the poor baby like doesn't know what to do. It's like, Mom, come on, it's just like frozen. But it's instinctive, right? But now for someone to be afraid when they're just on the 33rd floor of a building, because that same old evolutionary program, which was adaptive, is no longer adaptive in modern society. And so a lot of disorders are sort of things that were normally adaptive that become either maladaptive because they're sort of so extreme, or because there's a mismatch. It's this mismatch theory between what was useful before and no longer useful in modern society. But the other thing is this: there's no line that like where suddenly something is clinical. It's just how much distress is it causing you? How much distress is it causing other people, or your ability to function? Some people don't think like narcissists don't think they have a problem, but everybody else does. But they think they're just fine, right? So, but often it's subjective. How much distress is it causing you? And then we sort of get to these critical areas where a treatment is required.
If someone comes into your practice, how do you decide if, well, they just need to come to see me 3 hours a week for 2 years, or you just give a pill and say, call me
good
back?
Profession.
You come to psychiatry as a neuroscientist, and these are two different approaches to solving the problem. One of them, the person laying down on the couch. The other one is they're taking medicine. Of course, you do both. But I foresee a day in my long year where you don't have to keep showing your numbers to a psychiatrist or a therapist. You know exactly what the problem is, and this is the exact medical cocktail to fix it. It's a one-stop shopping.
I disagree. That day is very, very unlikely, because the human brain is so different from person to person. And the one thing that I've, in my experience, is you take a medication and your doctor tells you, listen, we're going to try this. They don't tell you, take this and this is what's going to try this and keep an eye on
But
it.
Chuck, before Newton, people said, oh, these planets are all moving differently from each other. This is very common.
So the brain is this really wonderful organ that it's physical and it has neurochemicals and neurons, but it also has this subjectivity. So it's both. Now, research shows that medication alone can have a significant impact. Therapy alone can have a significant impact. When you get them together and it's the right medication, because it is individualized, not one medication fits all. When you get the right therapy, you get this synergistic effect that combined is much greater than the sum of its parts. They need to work in conjunction. If it was only enough to give a person a pill and be done with it, great, and I can just be out of business, at least in my clinical psych business, and go straight back to neuroscience. But the issue is that not everything is just neurochemical. There's also the way your brain is kind of wired, and that's why it is actually unique, because we all have different experiences throughout our lives, and our brain gets wired up. It gets it's like a piece of clay that gets molded throughout our lives, and each brain is slightly different. So things that might trigger you don't trigger me, and vice versa. So it is complex, and it is more than just changing the underlying. So I'll give you just one example. Like, two people can have a lesion, like brain damage in the same part of the brain, and one person has this severe, neurocognitive deficit or some psychiatric illness due to it, and the other person doesn't. And that's because they're wired slightly differently, or their neurochemistry is slightly different. So it's just not one size fits
We've
all.
known that decades ago, if you could just open up people's skulls just in a laboratory and just do that routinely, but you're stuck with the two people who happen to have the same accident and brain lesion. But you have to wait for people with brain issues to come to you. Right.
Yes, but now just as go to the alternative treatments, when the SSRIs or other kinds of chemical treatments don't work, the ECT doesn't work, the TMS doesn't work, ketamine doesn't work, right? What do you have left? There's what we call deep brain stimulation, where we actually can implant electrodes in part of the brain called the anterior cingulate. And Helen Mayberg, who's at Mount Sinai, was one of the founders of doing this work to treat depression, where now you can actually implant electrode, it's being stimulated, connected to a battery pack, implanted in your chest, and you can control it. You can turn it up, you can turn it down, and you can literally change people's emotions in the operating room, where you're like, they don't know whether it's turned on or off, and suddenly you turn it on, and they're like, whoa, suddenly I feel great, I feel like I just won the lottery. And it's this level of control, and maybe that's where we're headed, toward these neural implants that
That
can
comes from
actually...
Earth Link, it's not from psychiatry. That's all.
And when they put this in you, when the operation is complete, they go, it's alive! It's alive!
Now, Heather, you're worried haven't treated before, and perhaps we can pick it up again when you see new developments on the horizon, and we'll put it right on Star Talk Special Edition. All right, this has been Star Talk Special Edition. Your Ask Tyson, your personal astrophysicist. Keep looking up. But if I as a man take those hormones, will I start having those same effects?
So I've been single for about 4 years now, and I find it hard to meet a guy, especially in California. I've tried dating apps, I've met friends through friends, I've done online dating, and I just feel like most of the guys that I meet aren't serious about a relationship. They all want to hook up, they want to have fun, and they want to hang out, which is cool, but that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not afraid of a long-distance relationship.
There are people who still think that the other side of the moon never sees sunlight. The moon does always show the same face to Earth, Jim.
Tidal locking.
Tidal locking, that's right. Other side of the moon gets as much sunlight as the near side. So there's a far side and a near side. And a day on the moon lasts 30 days, 30 Earth days. So there's like 15 days of sunlight and 15 days of darkness. Had you thought about it, Chuck? When you see a half moon in the sky, right? Wouldn't you think that like the half you don't see on the other side is also getting sunlight, right? Here's the thing: when the Indians landed their first successful landing on the moon, they landed near the South Pole. So here's the thing: the Indian spacecraft landed not in the bottom of a crater, because it has solar panels and it needs energy. So it landed outside the crater, but in darkness. And so why would they do that? Well, here's what they did. They landed on the last day of nighttime.
Ah, the 30th day.
Okay. On the last day of nighttime, so that the next day the sun rose. And how much daylight do they get?
They get 15 days.
They get 15 days, so it's a 2-week mission.
That was so smart.
Yes.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And so now they have 2 weeks to go look for their ice or whatever.
The water it'll be frozen, of course. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's smart people or people who figure this stuff out. And as a matter of fact, it is rocket science, right? Because they have to leave Earth so that they landed there at that time, right? So I think they might have seen it landed in the dark, and then and more dark becomes dark side of it.
Wow.
Yeah. And so you might ask, well, how cold is it where the sun don't shine?
Oh, how cold is it where the sun don't shine?
Hundreds of degrees below zero.
That makes things difficult, doesn't it?
And so this water, which would have arrived by comets, who's been hit by stuff.
Yeah.
Notice the acne.
That's why the man in the moon's face looks like a pepperoni pizza. It's a terrible shame. The guy looks like he has some serious hormonal problems going on.
Some teenage acne.
Yeah, the man in the moon is not getting a date to the prom. That's all I'm saying. It's going to be tough. Really, it's rough. It's rough. A little Accutane.
So because there's no atmosphere to smooth out the hot places and the cold places, because what happens is in our air sort of captures the heat once the sun heats the ground, and it moves that around, right? That doesn't happen on the moon. So where the sun is shining is 200 degrees above zero. You can sit out with a cup of water and boil it. And where the sun doesn't shine, it's hundreds of degrees below zero. Really, if you're there, the side of you facing the sun is going to be hot, and the side of you not facing the sun will rapidly cool off. So ideally, you should go on a rotisserie.
Right. Like Boston chicken.
So, obviously, there's a reason for spacesuits to be reflective, typically, okay? Because you want to be in full control of what's going on. So, of course, they had, those big packs that were on the astronauts' backs. Half of that, I won't half, but a big part of it was the cooling system that keeps them at the right temperature so they don't bake or freeze.
Nice.
And one other thing before we get this, because there's no atmosphere direct sight lines from the sun. So if you're standing there, Chuck, and part of you is in shadow, unless some light is reflecting off the lunar terrain, it is pitch dark in the shadows of rocks and in your shadow. Pitch dark. In broad daylight. So that makes for fascinating contrasty photos when this happens. Yes, you can get a reflection off the lunar module, okay, but the general ambient light we take for granted when you walk around in the daytime is not there on. Look at that. Yeah, that's cool. So Chuck, there is no dark side of the moon. As always, I need you to keep looking at it.
Dr. Tyson, I have a question. Is gold actually rare in the universe? And part two, is it rare on planet B?
It's a big event if you're birthing out a baby. It's an even bigger event if I'm birthing out a baby. Just say biologically. So, is rare in your life. How many, unless you work in a hospital or serve in the military, how many bodies have you actually ever seen in your life?
Right.
At most a few, at most.
Yeah.
Yet it happens all the time. So something can be rare, but common. So gold is rare because most things are not gold. But gold is everywhere.
Okay. Even in them there hills?
If it's everywhere but not all concentrated, then it's a challenge to gather it, all right? So nature has done something very cool. Right? When we form planets in orbit around stars, it initially is very hot, and the whole planet is molten. If you are molten, that means heavy things can go to the bottom, and light things go to the top. So, while you are in your molten state, all the heavy stuff goes to the bottom. The light stuff floats to the top. What would that be? All the metals, the heavy metals. So, iron, nickel, cobalt. So they go to the middle and the light stuff floats like rocks. Okay? Rocks are light compared with metals. Okay? If you have a chunk of metal and a rock and you drop them in the water, the metal's going to fall faster than the right? Because it's going to cut through the water faster. So, and they become solid. Then, in the early solar system, which was a especially bad shooting gallery, other planetesimals can slam into you and shatter you to smithereens. After you have formed,
Right.
after you've been pre-sifted. What that means is the asteroids you become
Right.
are now pre-sifted for the ingredients.
That's right.
Some of them will be rocky, others will be metallic.
Right.
We have metallic asteroids in the solar system. If you go lasso one of those and bring it to Earth, it will have, depending on the size, of course, but there are asteroids out there with more gold in them than have ever been mined in the history of the Earth. By the way, there's way more iron than gold.
Oh, God, yes.
There's not much gold in the universe. Let me just start there. Yeah, so gold is plentiful but highly scattered unless you're going to find the pre-sifted stuff in asteroids. Oh, by the way, there's more gold in the ocean than have ever been mined on Earth. So the answer is it's rare but common.
Can we feel a change in spin speed of the Earth at the equator versus at the poles? Obviously, at the equator, Earth is going to be spinning a lot faster, and at the poles, it's going to be spinning a lot slower. And obviously, this has a lot of effect on the planet as a whole. But can we, as humans, kind of feel that change?
Interesting question.
Clearly, he knows that the Earth spins faster at the equator.
Yeah, so at the equator, you are moving 1,000 miles an hour. West to east, 1,000 miles an hour. As you go north or south of the equator, the surface of the Earth is not moving as fast. It's moving as a solid object, of course, but your circumference is not as big if you are farther away from the equator than the equator is. So, but you still make one turn in a day, so you're clearly moving slower. All right. So, if we paved over Earth, okay? And I never thought of this example before. It's the first time I'm thinking of this. You pave over Earth, start you at the equator, and we say, run due north, and don't stop. Okay? And you start running due north, but then they no longer tell you which way north is. You just start headed to the Santa. Pause. Okay? You start running, and you're always going in a straight line. You will think you're going in a straight line, but you're not. Step back, and we see your path. Your path would have curved east, and you'll never hit the North Pole. Because every step, so the point where you took your last step, has higher sideways motion than the point where you just landed. So it is carrying you east without you even knowing it. Even though you think you're running in a straight line. Another way to do this, if anyone still has them, you got the record players, right? Okay? Take a little marble, start it at the end of the record player, and then roll it inwards. It'll overtake the spindle and come in ahead of it. So that's kind of the only way you would know it. By the way, clouds know all about this, right? That's why they circulate into storms. Right? Clouds coming up from the south, they overtake their destination. Clouds coming down from the north fall behind. As you do this, that creates a circulation. All storms in the northern hemisphere rotate counterclockwise. I grew up with a friend who was very religious later in his life, born again, and as used Jehovah's Witness. In science, eyewitness is the lowest form of evidence you can bring to the table. We've talked about science and religion like our whole lives, my friend and I, and I would describe to him, I would go to a mountaintop to observe the universe, and back in the day, it was an ordeal. I'd set up the telescope, your sunset was the beginning of your day, and then it's you, the telescope, and the cosmos. In the eerie silence of the night. And I would look up, and I would feel very deeply connected to the cosmos. He was quick to say, that's like a religious experience. And so I said, okay, except I wasn't thinking God, I was thinking this is a magnificent, glorious universe.
Yes, but you weren't.
I have the privilege of studying.
You beheld that scene with awe. You were in awe of the universe, and often.
And I started using all the same words: the awe and the majesty,
right.
And I was humbled in its presence.
Yes.
I wasn't prostrate in its presence, but I was humble. So there's a lot of overlapping vocabulary.
Yeah.
But when I've heard people say they were brought to tears, or they gave in that moment they gave themselves to their religious figures, whoever that might have been.
Right.
And so it's never been that. Now here's what I found: that people with religious experiences typically there's something they experience that they cannot explain.
Right. That's normally the case.
That's normally the case, correct?
Yes.
Of any kind, okay?
Yeah,
An apparition or this or that and the other.
Right.
So I have seen things that if I did not know astrophysics, physics, geology, atmospheric sciences, and just basically the laws of physics, I probably would have rapidly called the police department to try to get somebody to investigate what I was looking at. Or I would be on my knees in awe, wondering what mysterious mythical forces were operating. So I don't know whether my knowledge of what is possible in this universe has precluded me from having some religious experiences that others might have.
Okay. Right. I think rational investigation could kill pretty much any religious experience. What? A rational questioning of what's going on in the moment.
conditions of what goes on around him. Right. So, and anyhow, what does that say for everyone else who died? What? Well, God didn't save them? I mean, you're stuck with the moral conundrum of the people who did die versus those who didn't. So anyhow, so my answer is just no.
Look at that. That's, I mean, listen,
yeah.
that's
maybe such a day will come. Right. And, oh, by the way, was it Hume? There was a philosopher commenting on miracles, and I'm going to mangle the quote, but he said something like, miracles are so unlikely, bordering on impossible, that if you do encounter something that you cannot explain, not only from your own base of knowledge, but is unexplainable given any base of knowledge yet acquired on Earth, it's more likely that you simply discovered a new law of physics than that there is a divine miracle that was performed in front of you.
Right. So
no, I mangled that reasoning, but what I said is the bulk of what he was getting at. And I don't even remember if it was Hume. I think it was Hume. But philosophers have thought this through. And so, yeah, there are new laws of physics that are doing weird things. And do you pray to God, or do you say, no, there's phenomena that you've never experienced. Do you pray to God for it, or do you investigate it and find out you just made a scientific discovery? So that's the interesting frontier of this whole exercise, this science-religion exercise. Right.
I mean, and then there are certain things that are just a violation of the laws of physics, like Jesus walking on water. There's no way around that. Either he walked on water, and that's a miracle, or there's something else going on. Whether it's the testimony is incorrect.
He was behind water skis. Right?
That could have been it.
Skiing on his feet.
That'd be so funny. Barefoot on his feet.
No, there are people who are trying. Like, for example, there's a Jesus spider. There's a spider or Jesus lizard that can walk on water.
Yes, I've seen that. It runs.
They call it the Jesus lizard. Right. But the Jesus lizard is walking on water because of surface tension. Plus, it's propelling itself so that part of the effort gets it back out of the little bit of water that it sunk into, which doesn't weigh very much. So I would say that's an insult to Jesus, because the lizard is using laws of physics to do it.
Right. Whereas Jesus had to violate the laws of physics.
Correct. In order for that to be the miracle described.
Right.
All right. Neil deGrasse Tyson finishing yet another episode of Star Talk Cosmic Awareness. As always, people do not.
I cut off 80% of what I used to pay on my car insurance. If you're driving less than 50 miles...
Welcome back to the field, everybody. Mustard family won the game. Now it's time to play. On the clock, please. The clock will start after I read the first question. Name something a baby needs to learn how to do.
Talk.
Something a granny would like to eat.
Food.
Be more specific.
Cake.
Another word for happy. Top 7 answers on the board. We asked 100 women. Name a reason you dump a guy.
His penis is too small.
Those people on the top row over there, who are those people?
That's my 90-year-old grandfather. My grandmother. My parents. My aunt and uncle. And
so you thought that this answer would be just fine in front of your mama and daddy, and then your 90-year-old grandfather just folded his arms.
I think he's praying, Steve.
He's praying? Well, it's a little late for that. A little late for that. You know, we're going to point to the board, and this is the reason you double got, okay? It's a very small package. Name something Steve's wife doesn't want anyone else to do to his head.
Sit on it.
You don't want nobody to sit on it. Name a place you hate going. It might be more tolerable if you smoke pot first.
We're gonna go with church.
Church?
Yes, sir.
Who didn't want to say church? Thank you. You come over here with me. Come on. Oh, you got to shoot. No, just come on. You ain't gonna do everything. Come on, it's me and you stand here. Church. All right, so introduce everybody, Tony.
Okay, Steve, I have with me my handsome son-in-law, Latrey.
I work for Charter Communications as a network compliance analyst, and I've been studying Chinese for a while. So I can say, ni hao, yeah.
Hey, I don't know how long you been studying Chinese. It's knee-high soda. Okay, say we'll be right back.
Woman ma shan jerk holy.
That ain't it. You Chinese, stand up, dog. Wait a minute. So you man,
I kind of understood what you said. See?
hey man, shut up. You shut up. You shut up, Latrey. They talking about see? Okay, now, what's your name, dog?
My name's Jasper.
Jasper. What's your Chinese name?